and welcome back to another Thwack Camp session. Dude, hold my keyboard and watch this. Advanced SolarWinds product tips.
Yes, and we've been out at SWUGs all over the United States, and this is where we actually came up with these ideas.
That's right, SWUG, SolarWinds user group. If you haven't been to one, go to one. Check out thwack.com/SWUG to find out when we're going to be in your town next. But what's been great about SWUG is getting feedback, not just on the content that we're giving you, but you are actually telling us things about products that in some cases we really haven't even considered. So one, you definitely want to come to one of the user groups when we're in your town. You can even sponsor them and get Thwack points for that, which is pretty cool. But the other thing is that I'm finding things that I never considered doing with products. You had one the other day where you were actually abusing WPM for your own gain.
I might have. Might have been.
You got VIP seating somewhere.
Yeah, you gotta get it where you can get it, right?
If you get called in on the weekends, to me that says I should be able to use that same platform occasionally to enrich my own life. And then the other one, you taught me something that I did not know.
Whoa. I taught you something?
You teach me stuff all the time. You have been using, you're 13 years now at SolarWinds, right?
10.
10.
Don't date me yet.
Okay, well, wait a minute. Oh, you're the 13th employee.
I'm 13th employee.
Ah, that's it. Okay, so, but you taught me something about SAM that I didn't know, which is I've been working with the Universal Device Polar for a long time, now in Polar Studio, and you actually showed me that you can use SAM with an SNMP application monitor to monitor any OID and alert on it.
Yes, and that is because, well, we'll dive into this actually, but think about it. If you have a template with your universal device polars, you've got alerting and reporting built in right there. That's
true, and you're not limited by needing an alert action on a particular element. You can alert on any OID value.
Yep.
Okay, that's pretty cool, and we'll start with that one. We're gonna do at least 5 of these tips and tricks. We may have time for 6, we'll see. And let's just dive on in. Let's start with that one for UDP polling.
Okay, sounds good. All right, so if you're in your application summary from SAM, you can go to your SAM settings, and then you can create a new template. Now from here on the add to the component monitors, that's where we're going to actually use the SNMP.
You know, I go back and forth between using search and scrolling. I think I scroll more than search because I have, 8 years using the old interface, and I forget that you can actually go up there and search for template names.
I still do that, and in fact, yesterday when I was working with Chris O'Brien, he was doing the search and the alerts, and I was just sitting there going, yeah, probably need to start doing that.
It's pretty handy, and it's fun because you can actually search for terms that you wouldn't expect, like in this case, why would SNMP be in SAM? So a lot of the times, networking terms that you're used to, there are application monitors available, so don't hesitate to really spend some time wandering through those templates and exploring them.
And the faster that you get at this, the easier it is, and then obviously you're going to use it more.
Right.
So we can put the object identifier here. We can actually use it as a get or a get next.
Awesome.
We can set the custom SNMP port if it goes through anything different. We can set it up there. We can also change, this is what I like, you can change your threshold values actually from here and put your user notes. Now what we can also do is I can show you one that we've previously done.
Okay, before that,
goes through here.
I did want to make the point over here. You can also, in addition to manually setting your thresholds, you can also use the baseline data just like you would with anything else.
Yes, and that's something that's also great, especially with the universal device polar. You don't really have that functionality.
Well, or maybe you're creating this as a template, and to your point, you're going to apply it to a whole bunch of machines all at the same time. Then each one of them is going to get a calculated baseline threshold, so you'll be different for each one, so you're more likely to find spikes for ones that are a little bit asymmetric in their behavior.
Yeah, and when you're doing it per device, you have some devices that run hot, you have some devices that run cold, and that's just the nature of the beast, but you have to be able to set the expectations and such, so if it goes out, we're actually on top of it.
Give it a couple days to calculate the value, and you'll get individualized alerting for each device.
Then you're not getting woke up in the middle of the night getting all the alerts. Okay, so now that we showed you the basic setup of where the SNMP monitor is, what I wanted to show you is how I usually do this, like when you're doing it into a template form.
Okay.
So I'm going to cancel out of this. I'm going to actually go into the Manage Templates and do another search function. So this is the Cisco Callmanager. So do you see how many of these I was able to put into this template?
Wow.
Several. So this template can be applied to all the call managers. It's going to be alerted upon. You're going to have all of this information, the CTI devices registered and unregistered. But what I wanted to showcase here is how many we can place within this template. That's all different.
Well, and each one of these is a lookup because you're going to have to go figure out what the OID value is out of the MIB to find it, which is a little tedious. But once you've created it as a template, you're never going to have to look at that again.
No, and that's kind of that set it and you just kind of forget about it for a little bit, because then if anything that you have to do, if you're grouping them together or doing anything, you can set it and apply all of these templates together.
Or if there's a change, for example, or you want to add a new monitor or a new OID, you add it to the template and push that change to all the devices that are currently monitored.
Yeah, so you're not individually doing it. Same thing like if you were doing it with a universal device puller, which is a great functionality to have, but when you're doing it on this scale to try to gather information out, especially if you have like newer devices or new things that are coming about that you're wanting to do and maybe we don't have it out of the box yet, this is a quick way to get all of that detailed information brought back into your NPM, your SAM, your things of that nature, so you're right on top of your situations.
Or you want to experiment for your environment. You know, you may find that one particular value that often is something you've never monitored before is actually best applied for your environment. So you can experiment, add and remove them, and then be able to push them out easily to devices once you figure out which ones work in the lab and which ones work in production.
Yeah, and something that I've also helped customers with is this notes section here, is that because sometimes people will be like, well, I don't really know if I need all this stuff monitored. I don't understand what the value of it is. Well, I've had where the manager has actually put in the notes, or vice versa, but I've had it to where the manager will actually put the notes, I need this for my reporting. So that way, if you have people come in that have access and can change, they're like, well, I don't need that, I'll just get rid of it. You automatically have notes on it about how you're setting up the actual template. So that helps the user, that helps the people that need the reporting to all make sure that we are gathering the information, even though it's not pertinent to you, maybe pertinent to somebody above you, below you, beside you.
Well, I think that's one of those things. I think as IT, we tend to be more terse than verbose. I think we just get tired of looking at logs. But this is one of those things, whether it's templates or notes on a node or anything else, all over the place inside of Orion, you have the opportunity to apply notes and be verbose, because you never know what you're going to find 2 years later, or if you want to delegate administration to someone else, rather than have them have to first get up out of their chair and come over and ask you questions about what that thing does and scratch your head while you try to remember. No, self-serve. They know what to do with it.
And when you're auditing yourself, especially in your IT team, you need to also remember to audit yourself.
Yes.
That's the major thing.
You talk to the duck. If you can't actually explain it clearly enough in the notes section, then maybe you ought to stop and think about what you're doing.
It's constantly changing. You get people that come in and go back out of even your departments. And so if you have something well-defined, even in your monitoring situation, then you're staying on top of your monitoring and you're not letting it lag behind. You're able to actually stay on top of it and teach it quickly. So it's something that I'm very key on, is logging.
Okay, so you created a whole bunch of S&P monitors, added them to this template, so what's next?
So then we can save and continue working on this. So that's what I'm going to do. Now when you save and continue, it'll actually, let's back up. Okay, so I'm going to submit this.
Save and continue, you would have just saved it and you would keep working on it. Okay.
So if I'm adjusting values or doing anything there. So now that I have the template, I can actually assign it. So I can actually click on it, and then I can assign to a node.
Do you find...
Or to a group.
Yes. So do you find that you individually assign templates more, or do you do application discovery and let it assign templates more?
So since I'm the network, more centric than actually systems, I actually do it by per node. Because usually if I'm using this from the network side, it's because I'm needing to focus on it as particular issue, usually a device or something that I'm actually honing in on. Now, friends such as Kate, things of that nature, she would be like, I'm going to do the actual application wizard and get it sent out and let it go, because she's more system-based. So, but we have that option within there, no matter who you are.
And then I always geek out, and instead I'll use the API to kick off discovery, and then I can iterate through it and do all kinds of magic logic to decide which ones I'm going to add. Okay.
So then I can actually just click on the nodes, like I said, whichever one that I would want to do, and I would bring it over and hit next, and now we're set up. It'll actually want you to test your credentials to get everything set up and to go through, and then we can assign the monitor, and then now you have all of your templates.
That's awesome. Again, try this out. This is way easier to get started with than you might think, and then you'll be able to start doing alerts in ways that you hadn't thought. So give me an example with this. What kind of alert would you fire off of an OID?
So if I'm doing something such as temperature, or if I'm doing something as members change, like if there's a members change or something that's going on there, I will need to know that. And a lot of times I want to know when a member has changed down versus up, you know, so that's the one that I really want to focus in on. But if it goes down and up, down and up, down and up, kind of like think of a BGP route flapping.
Okay.
So down, up, down, up, down, up. If it hasn't quite gone down yet, I need to be able to set that threshold in my alert.
So especially for groups of devices where you're getting a substatus that normally might not necessarily roll up and affect the up-down status of the container. That's great. Okay, so you spend a lot of time, so that's the first one. Number two, you spend a lot of time working with NCM.
Yes.
And especially using it as a security appliance. So when you combine two things, right, approval and approval processes and automated change detection, you can get to where you get really nice notification about who's messing around in your closet, right? Like who walks in with an aux cable and starts making some changes, right?
Yeah.
So walk us through how those two things work together.
So one of my biggest focus points is like security, especially when you have like access to configuration changes. So if you have an approval process that says these people are able to actually do something on my network, I'm in charge of it, I know these people, there's a process that has to be taken place.
You have a policy that says thou shalt not walk in
to
a closet and make changes from the command line.
But you still have people that have access to them, maybe somebody who's left switch departments and they're thinking, well, it's not a big deal, even though I'm on the VM side, I just need to make this change.
Okay.
Well, they're not a part of the process anymore. They're not supposed to be touching the network. There is our process here with the approval. So,
and I don't want you know, I cordon off the VM guys, and I know this is going to sound terrible, but I like to let them manage their own IP address space, right? Give them a couple of subnets they can play with it. And every now and then it'll be, oh, hey, I just need to add, I got to get my traffic out for some reason. I'm just going to make a small change to an ACL here to get this subnet out. It's bad, and that's naughty, and it's okay as an admin to say, no, I gave you a sandbox. You need to go through the change management process. And you can also, what we're going to show you here, you can also delegate this, right? So you can let them make that request for a change outside of their normal domain. And then push that through NCM. So you'll see that they're asking to make that change to let you approve it before it happens. Okay.
Yeah. And so by that, we will always know by having the real-time change notification who is making a change and when instantly.
Right.
By having that enabled, it'll actually send us a syslog or trap, whichever one you're using. I prefer syslog myself. But so when you have that out there and it'll tell you there's a change, you immediately know if it was in your approval process or not. So that is a security feature that I like about the NCM, because when you sit there and you know this is supposed to happen, these are scheduled out, but then you get this little click off and it says who logged in and where, then you're like,
okay,
I'm automatically knowing what's going on.
So show us how to tailor that to your process.
All right. So I'm going to go to the configs. We can actually go into the config summary.
You should log on.
I should log on. All right, so here we are. So you can see the pending approval list here. Now, what this is saying...
So, all right, so let's talk about this for a second. So this is the list of approvals that are coming to me because I am an administrator, and someone else who is not an administrator, it's taking it and it's sending it to me or someone else in the administrator role.
Now, something also to that is that even if you're not an administrator for NCM, you'll still see the pending approval list because that helps everybody stay on board. Because they're seeing things that are coming down the wire, and they can even look at them. They're not able to edit them or do things to them, but they can see what changes are actually coming and what time they're scheduled.
Right, or I dispatched it and I'm waiting for it to be approved, and I can go say, no, seriously, I have a config change that needs to happen. Okay.
So we'll actually go in here and manage these requests just so we can kind of get a feel for how this functions. So it'll automatically tell you who did it. It was submitted by. So that's key because that's part of the approval process for logging and auditing.
Right.
And so then we can see they're executing scripts. Somebody's uploading a config. And then we can also see who approved it. So this will actually say who approved where and if there's any notes. So
and you can go back and also search that history to figure out who's done what. So if you're looking for a change that happened 6 months ago, you can find that.
Yep. And so now I can actually view and edit that by clicking on it. And now this is what I like, because if you're approving it, you don't want to just blindly be like, okay, well, he's just making a little change, not a big deal. No, we actually show you which nodes that it's actually being suggested to, the script details that's going to be on there, and then we can actually send them back information if we need to. So we could type in there, you know, like email him back and put the notes in this section and being like, no, re-look at the script, you know, and then get back to me. And then
Okay.
so you send it back down there, which means it still needs approval, but it'll actually send an email to them so that they're able to make the adjustments and then resend it through there.
Or something like I've added some extra nodes, right? Or I removed one node and you want to explain to them, hey, I just think maybe this is one that's out that we're not going to make the change on. Or maybe if a change freeze in place on part of your network, you can just remind them so you can actually help kind of educate through that process as well.
Yes, definitely. So here's one that's pending. So we can actually view and edit this one. Now, if I was in administrative mode, I would be able to say, okay, run this immediately.
Right.
And then I would be able, there would be an approval and I'd be able to click it. And it would, that's how you would approve one that would come through there. But see, this is what I like. When you're seeing one that's pending, it'll ask the execution method of which that they suggested, which they can say run immediately at a specific time, or, you know, I'll get back to you on this. So when I'm actually saying giving it approval, when I say, okay, let's go, if it's run immediately, it'll go right then. Or if maybe they have it, they fat fingered the actual specified time. They did it outside the maintenance window, which that I told them.
Or maybe I'm aware of a maintenance window that they don't know. Maybe I want to actually batch a number of changes up.
So I can actually click on the specified time and change this.
Well, and I've used this before where someone has requested the change, let's say the end of the day, but I'd really like them as a part of the change process to be there when the change happens, to be able to go QA it afterwards. So I'll go in and add notes and say, hey, I reset this for 10 o'clock tomorrow. If you would, and add a requester email line to that, right? So I've reset it for this date. If you would, please take a look at this change to make sure that it's been in effect and set it. So I'm using this again to communicate with them for that next follow-on action, which is I need you to just log in and make sure that it's working.
And with automation, a lot of people think that it's very hands-off and it kind of scares people away from automation. But just as we're having this conversation, as we're sitting here seeing what the requests are coming in, we know what needs to take place, we can reply back to them. You're actually increasing the conversation with the people that are making the changes on your network. You're documenting the conversations that you have, and you're training. That is key. So if there is a problem with the scripting, or if there's maybe the nodes that they didn't get right, or something that went wrong.
Topology or business rule awareness
anything.
or something else, yeah.
It's you just prevented a possible outage. You just prevented, you know, a mistake that maybe, you know, completely shapes down, you know, the CEO's, you know, lifeline to the anything
knocks off executive wing telepresence.
Yeah, you've prevented all of that, and you've educated them as well as yourself on maybe there's things that you need to discuss. Maybe you don't have the right topology out for the people to know where their areas are. So there's a way that you can use this as security, as education, and as auditing. Because you have to know what changes are being made on here.
Well, but it also lets you do things like when you're looking at the list of actions I think we are reluctant to delegate config change, right? Because, I mean, now, IP address change, if you're unfortunately the person who manages all the IP addresses, you'll never get away from that if you're still using spreadsheets. But with config change, we're reluctant to delegate. That's easy to get out, right? Because the potential impact to the network, right? So using this, to your point, as a communication tool is really important because it makes it easier to safely delegate, but also encourage delegation in your environment, which is what we really all hope for, is that we teach everyone to fish, that we help maybe less experienced administrators come into the environment and be able to up-level their skills, give them greater authority, so that we can actually not have to do everything and focus on more advanced or more difficult topics that, as a senior administrator, you need to really be spending your time on. Okay.
Okay, and so to this point, now that we know that how the approval process is flowing, here's what I'm talking about, like for the security side. And it's something simple that once I've explained this, like at SWUGs and done things, people just kind of go, oh, this makes sense. I get this now. So when you're sitting here and you're looking at the last config changes, and you can actually see real-time change detection. So say there was one that happened at 7:31 last night, and it's not on our list. Nothing should have been actually going on there. We can now see from the device, we'll actually can drill into it and actually know what was actually changed.
What the result was that came back.
Were they on the approval process or were they not?
Okay.
That's the major part. And so the easiest way is you can obviously see it from the NCM events if there's any changes.
Right.
And then if you want to compare those changes, the last 5 are showing here.
Right, so now this is going to be the list of things that have actually changed, where there's been a change. We've done a diff and figured out that there's been a change.
Yeah, because sometimes there'll be an actual change that's on there, but it can be like a time, or there can be something that's, a banner, or something that's outside of what we're wanting to look for. And so it will actually see the alert, but it won't download the config unless there's an actual change to our information.
Got it. So it's sort of a, not exactly full dual control, but you've made the change. You can see that through the NCM event resource that the change should have been made. This is telling you, yes, it detected that there was a change and it diffed it to confirm it and the time that it did it.
Yes, and then once you just click on the report, it actually shows you exactly where the information is.
Right. All right.
And so from here, you're able to take this, and then you can, if this was outside of it, you'll know who did it. So then you can actually go to them and actually remediate the situation. And then you can also use these as examples of why not to make these types of changes for the trainings.
Especially when that remediation is, do not log in with a cable and mess with that box directly.
Exactly.
Okay, that's awesome. So how'd you get front row tickets?
Well, I mean, we're demoing here.
Yeah.
All right. So
you wanted to, so you wanted to go to, what was the concert?
Shinedown.
Okay, so you want to go to Shinedown. The ticket window, the ticket office is not open yet.
Correct.
And you really want to get great seats. And then you think to yourself, you know what? WPM.
So, lucky for you, there's also a movie that I want to see right now.
All right.
And so I may have WPM working in the background to let me know when the first available tickets are.
All right, let's see this.
All right, so same thing with Shinedown, is it had a coming soon, right?
Right, so it's coming soon text
Coming
on the
soon.
page in the HTML that's coming back from the site.
So me being who I am, I decided to use WPM to actually show me when it changes from coming soon.
Okay.
Because I figured they would take that off as soon as it was available.
And not even just show you, but send you an alert. Okay.
So let's see here. So let me go into my WPM.
I do like this menu so much better.
It is so much better.
Not, I gotta start over.
All right, so I may be looking for the movie Suicide Squad to be out.
All right.
So I can actually click on it, and I have a transaction that's running that will actually check to see when this, as it says here, currently, currently there are no show times in Stillwater, Oklahoma. I'm an Okie.
Okay, and so again, that image is coming, that's an image of the web page that was captured by WPM.
That is captured by WPM.
And of course, all of this is copyright of Fandango and their property and all the rest of that stuff. This is not us. We're just wrapping what they have.
This is just us testing the website.
Okay.
Just like I was for Shinedown. And so actually when that coming soon or currently not available is no longer there, I'll get an alert and then I will be grabbing my first tickets.
Awesome.
So that's the fun way of using WPM, maybe not for like the best reasons, but that's kind of what we get from Swug, right? Is that when we're talking to people, we want like to think outside of the box situations. So we actually had a customer who was needing some specialization, let's say, because he had devices that would come on and off every once in a while, and he needed to grab a config from them.
All right.
So my way of working around that is I use WPM to monitor his no detail page.
All right.
Every time it came up and went to green, it started the job for NCM.
With a script action. Okay, that's really cool. So you're that's monitoring the Orion interface with WPM, looking for a change to then throw an alert, and the alert action is to execute a script.
Yes.
And then, of course, that's going to be listed in the action log so that you're going to be able to see that that happened.
Yeah. So I mean, so the point is that you've got to think outside of the box on this, right? Like, take a step back. Yeah, we're monitoring, but how are we really helping you where you need it? Because not everybody is cookie cutter, right?
Right.
Like you have special one instance. Like some people have things that are plugged in only through 1 week of the month. So there's ways that we can work around that to where you're not just constantly feeding your network full of traffic. And that's what I'm really excited to do and help out with it. The Swags and here with you guys is I like to think outside of the box and come up with new ways to do things.
Okay, but and this one's really simple because this one is actually, you kind of cheated here, right? Yeah. Like a lot of times you think about the HTML, you're looking for particular text, and this one, is the easiest one to use, which is screenshot capturing. So basically, if a pixel inside of that screenshot changes, you're going to learn on that.
I mean, I like to make things easy as possible. I try to take the complexity out of everything.
Okay, so...
But yes, this is how simple, and we just wanted to kind of show this. You know what I mean? Like, simple, easy, but effective.
Well, and you spent 30 seconds setting this up, and you get the tickets you want.
Exactly.
Okay, so maybe one that's not quite as simple, or when we think about the complexities of email alerting, where we want to have more specificity, or maybe almost programmatic control over where and how emails are dispatched. Custom properties are a fantastic way to do that. So talk to me about that.
So we all know that, like, if you actually change emails out and into an alert, you're actually resetting the alert. Which means that it can, if there's anything that's going to be alerted upon, it would send out the email there.
Right, and that's why you have the two. You have the alert action rules and then the reset rules on an alert. Yes.
So we were all thinking here in-house too is, you know, how can we make it to where if you have things that are changing or different nodes that are getting moved around and done, how do you actually keep up with the emails without spamming alerts?
And we've actually had 2 presentations at SWUGS from customers about advanced ways to do this. All right.
So one of the easiest ways that we like to set up, because I like to take the easy road, is custom properties, and that would be for the email, and we can show you how to get that set up.
Let's see it.
All right. So I'm going to go into settings, and I'm going to go into manage custom properties. I'm going to add a custom property, and it's going to be to nodes.
Which I can then edit on the node page itself without having to come back here for the value.
And I'm going to call this email. And a lot of people will also do this as, they'll set up not just email, but they'll set up one that will say CC, BCC, things of that nature.
Okay.
And these would be just different custom properties, same as what we're setting up here.
Okay. Again, verbose descriptions are really handy.
Okay, now, I don't ever require this property because there is some of these devices that don't need emails. There's just some of them that you're just monitoring and keeping up with, so I never require that.
And in the table behind the scene, that's basically just going to allow a null value.
Right, and I also don't do the drop-down list. The reason why I don't do drop-down list is just because people change, people leave, and when they leave, if I take out their email address, I really just don't want to keep storing it in my database.
Right. Now, if you were doing that on a custom property, for example, maybe a group name or a division or a particular program owner, where, especially when you're delegated administration to someone else, you want to tightly control their options so that you don't end up with lots and lots of different values. That would be one where you would use a drop-down list because it's going to limit their options.
Right, and especially with the big distros. Like a lot of people and companies just have that, and it just depends on your policies.
Okay.
So then we can go into the next, which is the assign values, and you can select the nodes. We can actually do all of the nodes because we're just starting off with these.
Okay.
And we will select those.
Okay. Sorry, move this over here.
And submit. Notice I didn't put anything there because I'm going to show you how this gets a little bit crazier.
Okay.
All right, so now that we have the email set up, what I can do is pick any node. So let me go back to my dashboard. I'm actually going to manage my nodes because that's the way that I take. Everybody has their own.
You really do. I definitely have a workflow that works for me, and it's fun watching people use different processes, especially when someone comes up and taps me on the shoulder and says, hey, by the way, there's a new shortcut for that. I'm like, well, but I've been doing it this way for 6 years. No, there's an easier way to do that.
Easier to me versus easier to you? Tomato, tomato. Okay, so I actually am managing this, and now there's an email here.
Right, and that again, that's that custom property that you just added.
And so I can actually place this.
Now, if any of you have questions, you know where to ask them.
Yes. All right, and so since I've added the email there, I'm just going to hit submit. Now what this is doing is this is applying an email. Now, like I said, if you had a CC or a BCC, you would actually see those on there, right?
So it's now an extended property of the node. All right.
So if anybody moves or changes, I can actually do it through the custom property editor and gather, like, if, say, they're all Cisco devices or a certain group, and I can make the changes for the email addresses.
Right.
But what's key to it is that when you come across here, and actually go into your alerts, we now are able to use that custom property in the email field.
Right, as one of the alert filter actions.
So I'm just going to grab any one of these, because we'll just show you how it gets set up, because it's available in any of them now by being a custom property.
So you're just walking through the wizard here.
Since this is an out-of-box alert, as you can see, everything's filled in for you. It makes it very nice.
So you're basically trying to get down here to the trigger actions.
Yes. So within this trigger action, I can actually, on this email, I can edit it. And as you can see, we've set these up before, but you can actually do.
Because that's now an actual property of that node.
So now, anytime this gets alerted, it will actually pull this email from the node of which that it's alerting from.
Okay, so it's going to send to, because it's a list there. It's going to send to the default, which is maybe you're processing that with Alert Central or something else. And then that's going to also go to someone who needs to take attention, who really cares about the status for that node.
Now, the cool thing is by having this in here, like we said, if I ever need to change the email address or if I ever need to do anything to those nodes, I can make the change in the custom property editor.
And never have to come back.
Never even have to touch this.
That's great.
And then you never have all the alerts going off either. So that's something great with the email, and that's what a lot of people have been using, and that's a quick way to cut down on some of the noise or like having to deal with unmanaging or doing things when they're actually trying to just update.
Well, in the presentations that we've had at SWUG, we've had customers that will actually do things like, say, update or deployment status, right? Where they might even have multiple tiers of status that are particular to their organization. Like, imagine you've got a change window coming up, right? So you'll have a custom property that says the state is pre-change, I'm in my change window, or I'm done. And a lot of times they'll use dynamic groups to have the node list to show that inventory moving through that change window, and then use that same custom property to affect alerts, right? Like suppress the alert if it's in one of these status, or once it comes back up again, if it's not working, if it's down and it's post-change window, and it's more than some amount of time afterward, then absolutely alert and escalate that as high as I possibly can.
Yes, and so what we're trying to do here is just pretty much just simplify it, right? Like, I mean, we just want to help you guys out on finding little tips and tricks to try to get
so custom properties, not just for display, not just for dynamic groups, but you can also use them to do things like set the email for this alert and not have to come mess with this afterwards. Just change it right through the property editor.
That is correct.
Okay, that's awesome. All right. One of the ones that we talk about a lot is how amazing it is to run policy scans with NCM.
Definitely.
FSMA, STIG, basic like Cisco best practices, there are a ton of them that are built in. But I had a customer at actually first at a trade show, I think it was Cisco Live, and then at a user group Seattle, talking to me about, two guys were talking about the same problem, which was they get in huge trouble with the legal department if the banners are not set correctly on all of their devices. Now, to me, that seems ridiculous, but
seems a little petty, but
I don't understand discoverability rules maybe as well as I should in legal. You know, I do like you, I do care about you. But that example of being able to, instead of just manually going through and scanning, but actually set a policy. So right on the front page, it shows those devices that are out of compliance for banner is something that they're doing with the policy engine.
Yes, and the reason why they were so excited about the NCM compliance being that way is because it wasn't just a upsetting factor, it was a bonus takeawayer.
Oof.
So
that's rough.
Once it hits the pocket, you start figuring out how to use stuff real quick.
Legal has superpowers.
Yeah, so within there, what we're going to do is go to the configs and compliance. And I'm actually going to manage these.
All right.
And I'm going to go to the rules. Now, something to remember on this is that it goes rules, and then it goes into policies, and then you grab those policies, and they go into reports. Some people get confused on that, or they kind of shy away from it.
Rules go into policies.
Just like a pyramid.
Rules go into policies. Policies are scanned against devices or against configs, and that results in alerts.
Yes. So I opened up in the rules, and I searched for the banner. So I'm just going to click on here so I can show you real quickly here. We're going to edit. So here's what we can do. We're actually making sure that this banner is set in place. We're looking for it within the configuration file. Now, it'll actually look at it, see it. If it's not there, we can automatically execute this script when a violation is found.
All right.
So automation scares a lot of people because sometimes they shy away from it. They just don't know what they want to do.
Fully automated remediation keeps me up at night sometimes.
So this is what I like to call your baby steps.
Okay.
Okay, so your baby steps to get your confidence and really kind of flow and learn, especially on things that you can do within NCM. Start off with the simple banner, automatic remediation setup. You're always in compliance. You're able to make it. You can always change your copyrights every year. You can do things of this nature very fluidly and easily. So that's
let it worry about the changes, and it'll also report the changes that it made, so you know.
Yes, and then you're also able to report on this if you get audited. So if they're like, well, how are all of your devices actually compliant with the banner, and are they actually on the correct copyright? Well, you can print the report and say, yes, actually they are, but you can test anyone that you would like.
Well, but it also lets you show that you have a policy with automated remediation in place so that when maybe you fail an audit, maybe they find one banner in this case that doesn't meet policy, but you can show that you have a process in place. You're also going to be able to explain maybe why that one didn't. Maybe it was down at the time, or it wasn't available, or the network link wasn't up, or some other thing happened. You can actually show that you have a best practice in place that should remediate that across all of your environment.
And some security policies is just if you have a practice in place is all that counts.
Okay, so here's the real question. For me, fully automated remediation has occasionally kept me up at night. Do you find with customers as they start with something like the banner here, that the prospect, in your example before of actually losing your bonus as a result of it, that helps them migrate, that helps them begin to take those baby steps to start with automated changes based on policy, because quite frankly, which one is really going to keep you up at night? Losing your bonus or maybe having something go wrong? Do you find that they'll start to adopt with smaller ones and then extend the scope of the changes that they're allowing the system to make? Yeah,
and something with NCM that I like to focus on is that I notice a lot of people just kind of shy away from the actual complexity of what all it can do, right? And so
why is that?
And I think it's because it's the network. Right? Like you don't want anybody to say the network's down or something's going wrong, especially something you don't know of right then and there. Like if you're doing something and something happens, you can remediate it real quick and you're like, oh, okay, that was me. I know what the problem is, I see it. But when something happens outside of where you're at, it's like a needle in a haystack sometimes. Well, with NCM, what I like about it is that it actually shows you, and it makes things easier, but I think it's how do I allow something, because we're control freaks, right?
Right.
We're complete control freaks. So we want control over everything and know what it's doing. I say it happens when it happens. So when I present them with things like banner changes, a little config change templates, show them how to actually do the device templates, little things like that, they usually start baby stepping into it, and then they get that confidence back behind it, and they're like, okay, hey, this is my right-hand man.
Okay, so let me ask you this. I talked about fully automated remediation being something that has in the past kept me up at night. But I have begun to let systems do a little bit more autonomously, especially to your example before of if my bonus is going to be affected, that is something that really will keep me up at night. It's important to make your mortgage payment. So how do you find customers start? When they, I know we've had a lot of examples, and we've from THWAC and from the SWUG events, but where do they start? Is it usually things like banners, or what are the types of changes where they start letting NCM make changes on its own?
So jobs. So a lot of times they'll actually roll out little small changes if they need to implement SNMP, or if they need to implement syslog to be changed, or NetFlow. Big time is NetFlow. Right. And we have the guide online to show you how to do that with NCM. The banners helps them to get a little bit more accustomed into how do we use the regex, because a lot of people actually kind of shy away from that.
No, don't shy away. Regex is good.
Never shy away. But it gets them involved in it. And then it's kind of baby steps them into, well, now I have one rule, so now let me get into another one, and then I'll combine these into my policy, and then that's what I like to call like the NCM, your first report, right? Your first compliance report, because it's like I've taken these little things that I need done, and I rolled them into my policies, and now I have my report, and this is like the perfect template.
And then you start applying actions to those. Well, the one that I'm hearing a lot talking to you guys is that what the feature that is often overlooked, regardless of what system you're using, is the event management, right? So in this case, NCM events, the change events, the changelog events, the diff action results, that they will say, I was afraid to let the system make changes, and then I discovered a way to verify that that change happened successfully. That they start to do a little bit more nuanced email alerts, or maybe even just straight to the mobile device, right? So they combine that kind of validate to add trust and start to discover that the automation is actually their friend. And instead of being the wild, wild west of things that are happening, sort of spooky actions at a distance under the covers, that it's actually more logical and reasonable and reproducible letting the system do it through the workflow than it is having people go in and make one-off changes.
Oh, definitely. And that's something that everybody is coming back with the NCM on, is that the auditing, there's accountability here.
Okay, so hopefully you have seen some tips and tricks that maybe you hadn't seen before. I still love using SNMP out of SAM. That's one of my favorites. There are a whole bunch of these that are part of the SWUG presentations that we've done. And definitely keep your feedback coming. Ask questions in the chat box, of course, for any questions that you have, especially because a lot of times people will experiment with features and get it mostly working, and there might be one extra question. And remember that THWAC is your friend.
Oh, definitely.
So the search feature on THWAC is a great way to find the specific nuances of your systems, whether it's vendor name, system name. A lot of times people use the specific keywords for articles. So definitely, you will find lots and lots of details on THWAC. And of course, you can always reach out to us on THWAC. We'll also be available by chat. But thanks again. I think this has been really, really great. Try to swing by a SWUG if you can. And thanks, Destiny.
Hey, no problem. And thank you guys. And keep those questions coming in and features, because I definitely like to be stumped.
We'll do the best that we can.